The driver walked off. It's nothing to do with the driver.
This heartless woman tried to deceive the nation. After stabbing her husband for more than 40 times, she attempted to push the blame on 2 unknown men. But justice was served and she was put behind bars. Let's unfold the case of Tracie Andrews. In May 1994, Tracie Andrews met her future husband, Lee Harvey, in a nightclub in Birmingham, United Kingdom. The young couple instantly fell for each other and had a strong mutual attraction. They both had a daughter from their previous relationship, and because of this, Tracie and Lee would each bring their daughter to the park to play with each other whilst they spent more time together. The relationship developed with time, and before long, Lee introduced Tracie to his parents. However, they disliked her from the moment they met, believing she was arrogant, self-obsessed, controlling, and their relationship wouldn't last. Lee was deeply in love with her and eventually moved into a small flat with Tracie. She was described to be insecure, and because of this she would get very jealous and infuriated every time Lee spoke to her ex-girlfriend. In turn, Lee would accuse Tracie of being in love with her ex, and this would spiral into a hot, heated argument, with Lee packing his bag to leave, stating the relationship was over. Lee eventually confessed to Tracie, saying that she was the love of his life, and after just 6 months of meeting each other, he proposed, in which Tracie said yes. This didn't stop the arguments from coming, and Tracie turned more aggressive and violent. During bad fights, she would even bite Lee, leaving deep teeth marks in his arms. Tracie fell pregnant in the summer of 1996 and shared the good news with Lee. However, in August of the same year, Tracie rang Lee crying to come home, saying she had fallen down some steps while outside and had unfortunately lost the baby. In fact, a couple of months later, Tracie confessed to Lee on the 25th of October, saying that she had not lost the baby through an accident but had an abortion. It was following this argument the pair started to become more violent, and the police was regularly called to the house for domestic violence. Lee's parent tried to convince him to leave her. The behavior between the two was reaching a very unhealthy point, with constant argument and fights. Lee also highlighted he was no longer happy in the relationship, but the couple remained together. On the 9th of April 1969, Tracie Andrews was born. Her mother, Irene Carter, stated that Tracie had a relatively normal upbringing within the surrounding areas of Birmingham. Aside from this, the only other piece of information known about Tracie's early life is that she gave birth to a daughter, Carla. On the 1st of December 1996, Tracie was getting ready with her daughter Carla for a photo shoot. At the same time, Lee said to Tracie he wanted to take his daughter, Danielle, back to her mother's home, but this again caused a massive row, with Tracie accusing him of wanting to spend time alone with his ex. Later that night, the couple decided to head out for a drink at the Malbrook pub, hoping to settle the argument they had earlier on. They then left the pub at around 9:45 p.m. As they were heading home, Tracie said they took the route along the school lane, and it was on this road a dark-coloured 1986 Ford Sierra started honking their horn and flashing their lights at them. They were speeding up to get right behind them, but only to slow down seconds later. The couple then turned into Cooper's Hill, where they had enough, so pulled over, but so did the car behind them. The driver, with short dark hair, around 18 to 19 years old, then walked out of the car and headed towards them. Lee got out of the car too and started to argue with the young driver, but then an overweight older man got out of the passenger seat and knocked Tracie to the ground. While on the floor, she saw the older men attacking Lee. She screamed for them to go away. Eventually, they fled the scene. As Tracie got closer to Lee, she realized he was severely injured, and it was at this point a man nearby heard Tracie scream, so ran into the direction of where the scream originated from, and he found Tracie hysterical next to the lifeless body of Lee. The police were then called at 10:45 p.m. 25-year-old Lee Harvey was pronounced dead on arrival, and Tracie was taken to Alexandra Hospital in Redditch. An autopsy was conducted and they found Lee had sustained 42 stab wounds in total, 30 to his chest, neck and back, but the cause of his death was established by a stab wound through the neck, which had severed the carotid artery. Tracie, with bruises on her face, frequently asked if Lee was okay, and went absolutely ballistic when she was informed that Lee had passed away. Then the police proceeded to question Tracie while she was in hospital. Throughout the questioning, she continued to repeat, "I told him not to get out of the car." The police searched the area for evidence that may potentially lead them to these two men, but regardless of how hard they tried, it didn't give them any new leads. They couldn't find any evidence nor the murder weapon. Tracie made an appeal on the TV. Whilst making the appeal, she was shivering and pale, showing all the hallmarks of a woman who had been through an ordeal, but many wonder if it was just a performance.
About what time did you leave the pub?
Well, we left about 10 to 10, something like that, I'd say.
Yes.
I didn't really look at my watch. I don't really know what time I left.
That's 10 to 10, not 10 to 11.
No, about 10 to 10. I fell to the floor. I can't remember if I was knocked out for a bit or what, I don't know.
Tracie made some rather strange comments, and it was after this particular comment, reporters started to think Tracie was responsible for the murder.
The driver walked off. It's nothing to do with the driver.
Following the appeal, the police received a phone call from a young girl who lived in a cottage nearby the crime scene. She heard a man and a woman arguing at the time of Lee's death, insisting it was only the two voices and no other male voices were heard. A further witness also came forward to report that he has seen a couple who had been driving on the road close to Cooper's Hill and that there were no other car present. The couple was also seen to be arguing. With this information, the police arrested Tracie on the 7th of December. During the questioning, she refused to talk, going from one extreme to the other, as she realized the police were getting closer to the truth. By now, the police believed she was the murderer. On the 19th of February 1997, Tracie and her solicitor then decided to hold a press conference to state her innocence, even going as far as providing an e-fit of the man Tracie had described. The trial began on the 14th of July 1997 in Birmingham Crown Court, and it lasted for 10 days. A blood expert analysed the blood found on Tracie's clothing, and it indicates she was extremely close to Lee during the attack. The splatter were consistent with her being the attacker. The police believe the weapon used in the killing was a small Swiss Army knife. Upon further analysis, they also found a shadowed bloodstain in Tracie's boot. They believe she had put the bloody knife into her boot, transferring the blood across. It was believed she had threw the weapon into the hospital bins. With all the evidence and witnesses to testify against her, she finally confessed on the 18th of April 1999. She said they got into a heated argument and that she got out of the car trying to walk back home, but Lee got out of the car and shouted for Tracie to get back in, saying she couldn't walk back home alone and he wouldn't give her the keys to her flat. After which, Lee then dragged her to the floor and threatened her with a knife. Tracie then begged Lee to set her free, but at this point, the knife dropped to the floor. She picked it up and stabbed him multiple times. She insisted she had lost control during the killing. Regardless of the excuses, she was found guilty on the 29th of July 1997, sentenced to life imprisonment with a recommendation that she served at least 14 years in prison. Tracie was released after 14 years and given a new identity. Thank you so much for watching. Please do support our channel by subscribing and sharing this video to people who may find our content interesting. Leave your thoughts down below, I'd love to hear from you. Stay alert and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.